So, welcome to another edition of the Diversity Amplification Dialogue. With me, I have a past guest, Merit Bear, who is a principal at the Office of the CISO at AWS. Welcome back, Merit.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Good to have you on the show. So it's probably the first time we've touched upon this topic, right? Just dissecting information technology and cybersecurity. And for the longest time, cybersecurity, the CISO in particular, he or she would be reporting into the CIO as part of the broader technology outlay. But clearly that is changing with CISOs being more accountable and directly representing to the CEO and responsible to the board as well. But I know, given your background, I mean, these we haven't really dissected into like the world of like the CISO and his or her community and what the cyber defenders community looks like from a diversity perspective, and the broader IT space. We talk about STEM and bring in more diverse thoughts. So just kind of breaking that down again, giving you a backdrop. What is unique about cybersecurity that makes it even more important to have diversity, even as we look at the broader STEM space?
Well, there's a lot in that question that we could dig into, and I guess we will. So first, I'm coming to you from Miami, where I'm on Tequesta, Miccosukee, and Creek land. I guess digging in, I think to answer your kind of pointed question there, I think security has uniquely high stakes in terms of representation, both because it doesn't have a great track record. Like it, I think that intentionality is really important in the security space. And, there are kind of legacy community elements that have been traditionally toxic, whether you look at Gamergate and how Brianna Wu was treated, whether you look at some of the, just things that have kind of been a part of security culture that were not healthy and representative. And so I think that the security space can be one that can be especially intimidating or not perceived as being welcoming. And then by the same token, I think it's so critical that we do have representation in that space, in part because we are moving, well, in part because it has always been important, because security folks are in many ways defining the perimeters of what we consider to be kind of acceptable behavior. But in part because right now, as you kind of alluded to, we're at an inflection point where we are seeing security teams really be part of the core business drivers. And so having that innovative side of your house woven in with your security team. And in practice, of course, this looks like, DevSecOps or whatever you want to call it, but these kind of innovation pipelines where you're building security into what you do. And to do that, it requires imagination and innovation. And, we know that humans who go through the world differently, think differently, and code differently. And so I think the only way to get kind of robust security practices that are both conscious of those kind of perimeters and how we want to construct them, and then are also healthy innovation shops that can do security, you have to have folks who think differently and who have, the more of the stuff that life is made of, which is to say, human experience.
Wow. So digging a little bit into the human side of things, right, which is there are clearly the big advocates for DEI, and they majority of them or many of them walk the talk as well. And then there are the silent followers who believe in the cause, but they're not out there kind of touting what they're doing for DEI. And then there is a third component, which is people who don't believe in it because they haven't seen it, right? So digging into like the second and the third category of people who are doing it, but not necessarily talking about it, right? And the third category, which is, okay, why even bother, right? So again, talk a little bit about, from a cybersecurity standpoint, have you seen conversions over for people who are disbelievers to silent followers to actual advocates, or are we still in those kind of three silos, and how do we kind of break that down?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that it is our job to, like my job is security, right? Yeah. So it is not my job to convince everyone that diversity is important, but I do think that having ways to articulate the value add, and I've actually written about this a little bit in my personal capacity, but like, there's no good way to capture all the opportunity cost of the missing contributions that we could have. And we see small kind of moments where it's clear that tech has been built by more of a sort of, homogenous team that didn't anticipate how users would react, who may look or experience the world differently. And those kinds of examples, we see those all the time. But I think that there is a broader story here, which is just about how we think about our organizational growth. And I think, for someone who is a technical security leader, so much of my time I spend on organizational sort of maturity and how to get folks into a better state. And I think everyone knows that workforce is part of that. But I think it goes beyond just saying, yeah, we need, smart people in seats, and women, for example, make up 50% of the population, or whatever slice of diversity you choose to take, like, oh well, we just can't afford to miss out on this talent market. I think it's more pointed than that. It's not just that women are a talent drain, which economically very well maybe or is the case. But it's also that, that innovative factor. It's the reality that that technology is human constructed, and that it is kind of bounded by our own imaginations and what we can build. And so, in large part, we're building on kind of like the constructs of our forebears here. And so there are things, even in my job, there are things that it's so interesting that'll be like, no, you can't do that. And it's because, the team that built this 7 years ago just didn't anticipate that people would want to, or it was like they didn't build it, with an ability to, interact with those other technologies. And so a lot of the constraints are just like human. I mean, pretty much all of them are human constructed, just like the landscape of technology is. And so I think if we want to really push our enterprises to be truly innovative and to weave security into how they do things, which takes innovation, tapping into that brain trust and having an awareness of how folks will approach problems differently is really the way that I think folks should be thinking about investing here. And of course, it matters more than ever now as we are allowing computers to take a lot of the manual work away. So like security, which until 15 or 20 years ago was very much a babysit your servers, make sure no one leaves the premises with something kind of mentality, has changed into one in which those kind of perimeters, whether physical or logical, are really just like supplementing and complementing fine-grained identity-centric permissions, where we are thinking like how to take away the tasks that might have been grudging manual labor for the security team, and have computers do a lot of that, and then reason on top of what the computers are doing. And the value proposition of cloud kind of reflects that, right? Where we're taking a lot of that heavy lifting, we the cloud provider, and then you're reasoning on top of that. You're doing kind of like this, higher order thinking. And so allowing, not only freeing up humans to do interesting work, but also accepting or embracing the fact that humans who think differently will be able to do that higher order work differently, right? That's part of, I think, why we're at such an inflection point now, and why the need is so apparent.